Welcome everyone to the stream. This is the X Files, the show where we talk about an ex of mine and uh, we talk about what just happened because a lot just happened again. Um, so if you were part of our last stream on the channel, you know that uh, Monday night I had a friend of mine, Becca, on the show. And during that stream, there was a guy texting me of, hey, maybe we should like hang out tomorrow and stuff like that. He was texting me like all weekend since my birthday last Friday. And he asked me out and he's like, hey, do you want to like come to where I live? And do you want to just hang out for a little bit and go on a first date and get to know each other well? I'm like, that's amazing. So he gives me his phone number. Everything's going good. And then on Monday, during the live stream with Becca, he texted me, do you mind when we hang out tomorrow? Which was yesterday. Do you mind when we hang out? Um, do you mind paying for lunch? And I'm like, well, who said we're going to get lunch? Like that's something we could decide to do if, the mood is right. And if everything's going well on that first date, then we could decide to go and get some lunch. Sure. Um, and so then I'm like, well, we could just make it fair. And instead of this whole thing of, instead of this whole thing, let's, have me pay for the whole dinner. How about we just make it fair and we both pay, and I pay for mine, you pay for yours, like a first date normally goes, right? And so I say that to him, and he's like, well, or we could just not go for lunch at all. And there's a nice way to do it, of like, if maybe you don't have the money this week and you still want to go on a first date, say to the guy, well, I don't really have the money, I'll be completely honest, so how can you like eat before you come, and that way we don't have to go for lunch uh, during the actual date, and that we neither of us have to worry about paying for dinner. I would be completely fine with that, because I understand sometimes, you don't have the money or I don't have the money. It's fine. I am understanding of that. So, yes, I'm talking about my date. So, anyway, I say to them, well, I say to this guy, well, how about we just not go? How about we just not go for lunch? And he's like, okay, that's fair. Um, do, do you want to come to me? Because he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have a license, which are huge, huge red flags in my mind that I've talked about before in this series on X Files. If you've seen my uploads about X Files, the different ones I've gone through of like X Files, he's married or something like that, then you know that basically a giant red flag for me is that you don't drive, because it's going to cause immediate problems in a relationship, no matter if you're right down the road from me, of like, right down the block, or whether you're 2 hours away. It doesn't matter. Like, it's going to cause a problem if you don't drive. Because, hey, I want to drive half the time, and I want you to drive too. I want to like enjoy my time in the passenger seat, be the DJ. I want to dance a little bit. I want to enjoy my time as well, and I want to, like, if we're going on a far trip away, if we're going down to like, I don't know, the beach or something, which is a 3-4 hour trip, well then maybe I want to switch off driving with you, you know, and maybe it's okay if I drive there, you drive back, because that way it's fair. Or even if we're going on a date somewhere around here, okay, I can drive today, you can drive the next time we go for a date next week. So that was like problem number one. He doesn't drive. So I end up going to his hometown, which I don't want to say exactly what hometown that is, otherwise it might give away his actual name. And as we say in the beginning of these episodes, names are changed for protect the identities of the unlucky that don't end up being with me. So he ends up. I go to his hometown, and I am meeting up with him at the community pool, right? Because like the pool is closed, but it's in the middle of the park. I'm meeting him during daylight hours in a public spot where it's safe. My car is going to be there in the parking lot. It's easy enough for me to escape that situation if I have to in an emergency, because you don't know who you're meeting that first time. What if they're a murderer? What if they're a rapist? What if they come with a gang of people? Like, I want a way out of that situation. So I meet him in the parking lot there. I was supposed to meet him yesterday at 1 p.m. and about 12:48 p.m. I said to him, I'm like, hey, I'm on my way. It takes me 22 minutes to get to that park. It takes me 22 minutes to get to where we're supposed to meet, and I am leaving my house right now. It is 12 minutes to 1. I'm going to be a couple minutes late. So if you show up at 1 to this place, then and he didn't do illegal things. It's just a user is. We'll get into that. But so I told him I'm going to be about 10 minutes late, just so you know, so you don't show up there and you're thinking I stood you up or something like that. I'm telling you in advance, I'm going to be a couple minutes late, because I told him, hey, my stomach is pretty upset this morning because I'm kind of nervous for this first date. I'm always nervous for a first date, and I'm just like, hey, I'm going to be a couple minutes late because it takes me 22 minutes to get there, and I only have 12 minutes left to get there on time. So just so you know, I'm going to be a little bit late. And he's like, that's perfectly fine, you know? So I drive my way to this park, 22 minutes away, into his hometown. And I end up getting there, and I wait around for a minute or two. He's not there. I'm like, well, maybe, you know, he's on his way. So I text him. I'm like, by the way, I'm in the parking lot, you know, waiting, just so you know. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll leave my apartment now. And I'm like, wait, what? You're going to leave your apartment, like, now? I told you I'm going to be 22 minutes driving away. Like, this is, like, right down the road, like, right down the block from where you live. What? How didn't you know how long it takes you to walk to this pool, you know? This parking lot? Because, like, hey, you know, it's not a very big town. There's not that many things to do. And you've told me already that you absolutely love going swimming in this pool. So you know how long it takes you to get to this pool parking lot. And I told you I'm going to be 22 minutes away. So in theory, you would know, hey, I have to leave my house at this specific time to meet him right around the same time, so neither of us are waiting too long. Well, he ends up, like, texting me, I'm on my way now. I'm leaving my house now. And I'm like, all right, so in other words, you value your own time higher than mine, which is not a great way to start a relationship. Of like, it doesn't matter to him how long I'm waiting there, you know? I was respectful enough to tell you I'm going to be a couple minutes late. You weren't respectful enough to make sure you're there because you live in this town. You know how long it takes to get there, right? And so finally he shows up 7 minutes after that text message, and we end up hanging out for a little bit. We go through this little park that's in that we were already sort of in the middle of for the pool there. We go around the park a little bit, and as we're going around the park, we're just making small talk of like, oh, so what do you want to do for a living? Oh, so, you know, tell me about your family. Tell me about your friends around this area, you know? And we're both chatting about our lives, you know, which is completely normal for the first couple minutes. And immediately, like 5 minutes after we start talking, he goes, "Oh, hey, uh, can we go back to my apartment because I I really have to go use the bathroom and I don't like using uh, public restrooms." I'm like, "Okay, but like you were just in your house like 12 minutes ago, you know? Didn't you go before you left the house? Didn't you go in that 22 minutes that I told you I was driving to here, you know?" Um, and he's like, I can't go to, I can't go in a public restaurant." I'm like, "Well, this is also going to be a problem if, things work out later on." "Well, what if we're on a longer trip? Like, can you not go to the restroom in like a truck stop or a hotel someday, And he's like, "Oh, no, no, no. I don't mean taking a number one. I mean taking a number two. I can only take a number two in my apartment." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Like, what if we're on vacation for like a whole weekend? Or what if we're out in the woods? Like, what are you going to do in that situation, Or what if you're over in my house? Like, this is all going to be a problem very, very quickly." And so he rushes to get back to my car so that that way we can go back to his apartment. So we go back to his apartment, and immediately he just sits on the couch, and he's like, "You just join me, just join me on the couch." And I'm like, "I thought you had to go to the bathroom, so go to the bathroom. Like, I can wait a couple minutes. Like, I don't care." Um, so he's like, "But I don't have to go anymore." I'm like, "So in other words, you never had to go to the bathroom. You just wanted to get out of public view and back to your apartment. Why do you want to go back to your apartment so bad?" And so we're on the couch for a little bit, just chatting. But the problem with his apartment, he lives alone, which is a huge plus in my mind. I'm like, "Great, you live alone." Like, but you got to understand is I'm 28 years old and he's 30. So I'm thinking to myself, hey, we're both grown adults, and the fact that you live alone is fantastic, because here's what it means. If you're not, if you're a little bit older, you can understand, like, there is no privacy when you are living with family or friends or whatever. So when you live alone, great. That means I can come over and we can, uh, sleep together. We can have a little fun together if we want it. Or, we don't necessarily have to put on pants and a t-shirt to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. We don't necessarily have to put on clothes to go get breakfast in the morning. We can just go out to your kitchen and get breakfast, And I think why he wanted me to come back to his apartment so fast is because he did want to do things. But his apartment was a pigsty, like an absolute pigsty. And it just shows that lack of responsibility in your life of, like, literally there's no furniture in the whole house besides two end tables for his couch with lamps on them, a couch. There's no kitchen table, no table at all to sit at to eat. All of his clothes are in his bedroom and the living room, just in laundry baskets. And what do they need to stop? So all of his clothes are just in laundry baskets all over his whole house, his whole apartment, and just lying there. I'm like, do you not own like a dresser for all of your clothes to go in? Like, is this how you lived your entire life? How come everything's just out, all over? Like, you knew I was coming today. You kept inviting me to just come straight to your apartment instead of meeting at this public location. And right as soon as you got to this public location with me, you invited me back to your apartment right away. You knew I was coming here. So, like, why didn't you clean up a little bit, right? And I'm like, this is highly, like, just dirty as shit. And it smells really bad. And so his TV is not on the wall because it's an apartment and you can't put holes in the wall in some apartments. So I'm like, okay, but why don't you have a TV stand to put it on? It's just sitting on the floor, literally just sitting on the floor, and that's how you watch TV or play games, right? And so I'm like, why don't you have a TV stand? He's like, well, it's too expensive. I'm like, TV stands are like $30, you know? They're not that expensive. And how about like a chest of drawers for your bedroom? That way you can have clothes in there. Or how about you put your clothes in the closet, which is completely empty, by the way? And he's like, well, hangers are too expensive. Well, dresser drawers are too expensive. I'm like, they're not. Hangers are a couple dollars. Dresser drawers are not that expensive. They're like $40, $50 at the local store. Like, you can get used stuff. Like, it's not that expensive of stuff, you know? So we're there just hanging out in his living room for a little bit on the couch. And we're cuddling a little bit because I'm like a little hesitant still, but I'm okay with cuddling on a first date. I'm absolutely fine with that. And we're just hanging out, talking about like small talk and stuff. And then he kisses me on the forehead. I'm like, okay, that's perfectly fine. You can kiss me a little bit. And then maybe like an hour later or so, he does have a job, by the way. He does have a job at a local grocery store. And he's like, I'm only paid on Thursdays, so I don't have any money on a Tuesday. I'm like, but here's the thing about working for a grocery store for the number of years you work there. The problem is I know exactly how much you make because I know other people that work at that store and have been there as long as you. So I know exactly how much you make monthly, and I pretty much can figure out how much rent cost for you in that area. And I know all of the expenses of how much it takes for food and stuff. But you don't have a car, you don't have car insurance, you don't have any of these other expenses that other people have. So after your rent is paid, you still make about $275 a month extra, completely extra, that you can pay for anything you want. So you can buy chest of drawers in a month. You can buy a TV stand in a month. You can buy like all these things that are normal things that you should have in an apartment in a month, right? You can buy all this stuff. You can buy hangers, you know? So anyway, he doesn't have any of that. And so we're hanging on the couch a little bit. He kisses me on the forehead, and then I kiss him. I'm like, okay, well, like, I'm okay with kissing on a first date. I don't really care. He's sort of cute, and things are sort of going well if you look past all this other stuff, you know? And I want to give it a good, fair shot of actually working, you know? But then I ask him, I'm like, well, so the longer we spend on the couch here in your apartment, the more I want to do things, the more you want to do things. And I don't necessarily want to do those things on a first date. So how about we just get out of here for a little bit? We go get a drink, right? Like, we just go get a soda, right? Because, like, fine, you don't want to get lunch. You don't have the money to buy lunch at a restaurant. But maybe you have $5 to your name to buy us both a soda at the local store that you work at, right? Maybe we can walk there or drive there and you can buy us both a soda. Because, hey, you know, I drove 20 some minutes to get here, which means I spent the gas to get here. You don't have a car, so you didn't meet me halfway. So the least you can do is buy me a soda, right? The least you can do to, like, make it sort of fair. Well, we get to the grocery store that he works at, and we go in, and he's like, so what's our budget here today? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's our budget here today? Like, we're getting a soda. We both agreed to get a soda. What kind of wine do you like? I don't like wine at all, but thank you so much, Lewis Smith. Yay! But anyway, sorry, too expensive. That guy. Yeah. So anyway, he's like, what kind of budget do we have? And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What do you mean? Right? So he's like, what I mean is the fact that I don't have my wallet on me, and could we get something to eat too? Like, are you? I'm like, I told you already. We agreed only to get sodas here. We agreed that's all we're getting. Like, and why am I paying for it? You know, like why automatically is it my responsibility to pay here? You know, like I came all this way. I spent the gas money to get here. Why are you not paying for it? Why are you not paying for soda? Right? And I'm like, I guess if fine if we're here and you forgot your wallet, fine, I'll buy sodas. Like I have $5 to my name because I'm responsible, you know. Um, and so he goes to the deli counter and he's like, so, uh, it was a very dirty apartment, and we will get into that in just a second. Um, so I'm like, well, if you have, yeah, there's a lot of red flags. Um, I'm like, he goes to the deli counter and he's like, can I have a large container of pasta salad? And I'm like, wait, who's buying the pasta salad? You know? And he goes over to the other, uh, yeah. So it's, do you remember your first date? I do remember my first date. And there's a episode of X Files called My First Date. That's all about that. Um, but this is about first date with this guy, which I don't want to mention his name. But thank you again, Lewis Smith, by the way. So anyway, he's like getting a sandwich at the other deli container thing, and now he has pasta salad and a huge sandwich. And I make the joke to him. I'm like, if we're gonna get a sandwich, then the very least thing that we can do is we can Lady in the Tramp it, because we can both eat from each end and be really funny to like Lady and Tramp, which is two dogs that, you know, eat spaghetti and then they meet in the middle and they kiss. Because, by the way, he's also a puppy as well as me. So I'm like, that's a huge plus you have going for you, is you belong to the same tribe in the community. So how about we just Lady and Tramp and do two puppies just kiss, right? And I was just making a joke, and he's like, oh, that'd be cute. But he picks up a sandwich without asking me what kind of sandwich I like. He just picks up a random one that I don't like. And so then he goes over to another container, gets a thing of cheese, another container, and gets an iced tea. And then finally we go to the registers, and he's like, are you sure you don't want anything besides a drink? I'm like, well, considering we came here agreeing that all we're going to buy is a drink, and considering you don't have a wallet, I don't want to spend any more money than I have to. All I want is a drink. All I want is a soda. So I get a soda, and he gets the same soda. So now he has a sub, he has pasta salad, a container of different cheeses, an iced tea, a soda, and I have a soda, right? So us going to the grocery store for 2 sodas, which should have been no more than $5 or $6, ends up being about $20. And he doesn't have a wallet on him. And most of the stuff we have is containers that were specifically made for his order of what he wanted, so we can't take him back to the deli counter, right? And so I'm like, well, this is just absolutely wonderful of a guy so far, that he has no respect for my money. Which, fine, I have some money to my name, but I'm not necessarily wanting to spend it all on your dinner tonight, right? Because we agreed that we would eat before we came to this date and after the date is over. That way, you know, you don't have to buy dinner. Even though you're the one that asked me out on this date, I'm okay with us just getting a soda. I'm okay with both of us getting our breakfast and dinner before and after this date is over, right? We agreed to all this on Monday night before the Tuesday date. So we check out and we head out of this grocery store. And I'm like, oh, you know, it'd be really romantic is if we take this food and we just go to the local park that we were already at, and we sit at the park bench and we eat it there, because I think it's absolutely adorable to have a picnic in the park. I think that is one of the most romantic things you can do. And secondly, there's not much to do in this little tiny town. There's like literally the pool, which wasn't open. There's a couple tennis courts or basketball courts that weren't really open. We don't have any basketballs on us to play, but there's a park that we can go to and just walk around, and there's a movie theater that we can go to later. There's not much else in this whole town besides a couple restaurants that we agreed we weren't going to go to. So he's like, well, no, I don't really want to go back to the park. How about we go back to my apartment and eat? I'm like, well, your apartment doesn't have any furniture in it, so we can't eat there. You know, we'd have to sit on the couch and eat. That's fine with me. So we end up going back to his apartment. And he's like, do you want any pasta salad? So I'm like, I don't really love pasta salad, but I'll eat a bite or two of it, you know, because I paid for it, you know. I feel like that's completely fine and fair. So I eat like a bite or two of this pasta salad. He eats the rest of this large container of it, plus the whole sandwich, because he figures out that I don't like this kind of sandwich. He's like, I probably should have asked you if you liked this kind of sub before I bought. I'm like, yeah, you probably should have asked which kind of sub I like. That way we could have shared it. You probably should have asked that. But you didn't, because you're not responsible enough to do that. You don't care enough about me to actually ask that question. So we're back in his apartment. He eats all this food, and all I drank was a soda. And I'm like, fine, because you know what? Again, we agreed I was going to eat before and after, and I'm still full from breakfast right before I came here, so I'm good. But thank you. You know, thanks for not even thinking about me. We don't have any games to play on his PS4 or whatever he had, so he obviously had some money that he spent on himself. Like, but we can't watch your TV because it's on the ground, you know, and not really plugged in. What else are we gonna do here? So we end up just like hanging out for a little bit, and stupid me, we end up like making out for a little bit. And the more time I spend in his apartment, the more I'm wanting to sacrifice my morals of don't have sex or do anything on a first date. The more time I spend on the couch with him, the more I'm like, you know what, we're making out, how about we do something small? And I'm like, no, I keep fighting myself the entire time I'm on the couch with him. And I'm like, I want to do something small with him right now. I want to maybe touch each other or whatever, right? And I'm like, I kept telling him over and over again, how about we go for a walk? How about we get out of this apartment a little bit? How about we do something else besides stay in this apartment the entire time? Again and again, he's like, nope. No, how about we just stay here and cuddle? And eventually, in the date, I have to use the men's room, right? So I go to his bathroom. In his bathroom, it's not much better than the rest of his apartment so far that I've seen. And on his sink, there's a couple bottles of like lube instead of soap. And I'm like, well, this is convenient, like right around the corner from where we were hanging out on the couch. Like, you were planning something today because you have all these at the ready. And he doesn't have soap in his apartment for me to wash my hands. And I'm like, this is absolutely horrible, you know? So I can't even wash my hands other than the hand sanitizer that's out in the other room. Okay, so you're not responsible enough to have a bottle of soap. And, well, he was 6'4", by the way. So he's way taller than me. And he was kind of chubby, but I'm a little bit chubby too. So, which I'm fine with, a little bit of chubby. Like, I'm absolutely fine. I don't want to date like a twig or something, you know, necessarily. I'm fine with you being a little bit overweight. I'm absolutely fine with that. It's just like, God, you know, like, you have all these lubes, like, right at the ready for us to use in case something happened, you know? But he also has, like, his collar on the sink ready to go just in case I wanted to collar him that day. Because he kept saying over and over again, well, we can call each other boyfriend, right? I'm like, It's a first date. I'm not going to call you a boyfriend. I'm not going to like say it, anything like that. He's like, all right, fine. I'll hold back from saying I love you today because I don't want to say that on a first. I'm like, good. You better fucking not. Otherwise, I'm gone, you know? Yeah. So who doesn't have soap, right? But I'm like, holy shit. Like, you want me to collar you on a first date and lock you with a collar? That is not happening on a first date, you know? He's not a twig. He's a little bit overweight, but I don't necessarily mind that at all. I don't care. You know, I think it's more about personality. Um, so then we go, and we're just like hanging on the couch again. And he's like, "Oh, like, do you want to see my puppy hoods?" I'm like, "Sure," you know. Like, I would love to see your puppy hoods. We're both puppies, you know. We're both like in the same tribe, so I understand it. He understands me. All day, he's very touchy feely with me, and he's very much like kind and stuff and respectful about the puppy thing. He's like, "Oh, you're such a good puppy," and I'm like, "Great! I want someone that understands that. I want to date someone who's either a puppy or a handler to understand what that community is like, right?" It was a pretty PG collar. It was just a chain, you know, that you can wear 24/7 without people really knowing what it is. But he's like, "Do you want to see my puppy hoods?" Right? So he has a couple of puppy hoods, and I'm like, "Sure." We go back into his bedroom, and like in the closet in his bedroom, it's just nothing is in his closet. Just on the one shelf is just his puppy hoods. And so he shows me them, and I'm like, "Oh, they're really cute," which they are really cute, you know. But I'm like, okay, like, so do you have a lot of toys? You know, like, what do you have? He's like, well, I have a tail. And I'm like, okay, you know. He's like, do you want to see it? I'm like, sure, I don't care. You know, we're just making small talk as puppies at this point. He goes to his kitchen cabinets where you normally store food, right? Like in his kitchen, in his apartment. Like you go into the front room into the main door of his apartment, and you're already in the living room where the couch is and where the kitchen is and where the TV stand should be, right? And in his kitchen cabinet, literally in none of the kitchen cabinets were food. All that's there is just clothes and all of his adult toys. All in his kitchen cabinets. And I'm like, what? Who stores their toys in their kitchen cabinets? Like, what if you have someone over that's a friend, and what if like you're gonna make something and you just open a random kitchen cabinet by accident? Like, who puts their freaking toys in their kitchen cabinets, right? Oh yeah, can you provide some pup translation on what a handler is? A handler is uh, someone who wants to like play the role of a handler of you know how like a dog has like an owner of, like, let's say um, if I had a pet dog, I would be the dog's handler of someone who is in the relationship with the puppy and has that dynamic. But in a pup like tribe community, that means a handler is someone who doesn't necessarily want to be a puppy themselves in a relationship, but plays the part of like petting the puppy on his head and saying good boy and stuff like that. It's not something everyone has to understand or something, but both of us were puppies, so we both understood it, right? Um, but anyway, as the day goes on, I keep trying over and over and over again to ask him, uh, can we get out of this apartment? Can we go for a little walk around town? You show me some landmarks in this town of like, you've lived here your whole life. Show me around town. Show me some of the great things about this town. I've never been here before in my life to this town, so how about you show me around? Show me some of the things you liked as a kid. How about we go to the park, to the swings, and just swing around for a little bit on the different things in the park, you know? I don't care what we do. I just don't like always being on the couch and always making out with. The whole day should not be me just making out with you on the couch in your apartment. That's not a first date to me, you know? So over and over and over again, I'm asking him, can we do something? Can we go out? I don't care, you know? And he's like, over and over and over again, no, we have to stay here. How about we just like stay in a little bit? And I'm like, you're not going to get anything sexy from me today. Like, we can joke all we want, but you're not going to get me to have anything with you. So, what's the sense in staying here and trying that, right? Um, so, anyway, back in his bedroom. By the way, his bedroom looks like he's a crack dealer. Like, that's just a thing that was also a thing with him. So he's like, literally, all he has is a mattress, no comforter, no blankets, no pillows. It's just a comforter on the floor in his apartment. And he's like, yeah, I sleep on the couch most times, but my bed is big enough that if you were to sleep over, you can sleep with me in bed. I'm like, but your mattress is on the ground. And like, back when I was like moving into this house, I remember we didn't bring like the box springs or the other stuff for the bed yet. And we had to like sleep here one night with just a mattress on the floor. And it was highly uncomfortable. I hated it. My back hurt so much from sleeping that way. And I'm like, you know, here's the thing. I know how much he makes and I know how much I make. And so I'm like, he doesn't know how much I make, by the way, but I know how much I make. And I'm like, somehow I can afford a memory foam mattress that's a king size bed with a box spring. Somehow I can afford to have a real bed that you can sleep in and feel comfortable on. And he can't, you know? Somehow all he can afford is the mattress and nothing else. Like, you're sleeping on the floor with nothing else. There's nothing to keep you comfortable. No pillows, no blankets, no nothing. How are we going to sleep like that, you know? Ever. And you live alone, which is great that you live alone because that means I get to come over a lot more often. But if you live like that, I don't know if I want to sleep over near as often, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of red flags here, aren't there? Then, oh, on top of all that, I'm like, it's great that you're a puppy. It's great that you are really nice to me while we're in person. It's really great that you're very touchy-feely because I want that in a relationship. I want a guy who is okay with, like, just, you know, touching my cheeks or something like that, just to, like, caress your arm to let you know that he's there for you, right? But everything else about this day is bad so far, right? And so then, then at the very end of the day, I'm like, hey, I don't really want to leave. I like being here, and whatever. Because honestly, in that moment, I was brainwashed into, I want to stay and see where it goes. And in my mind, I'm not thinking like I normally do with all my morals on me. I'm thinking with my small little brain somewhere else. And I'm like, I want to stay and I want to do something with him, right? I don't know why I do, but I do. So then I'm like, well, either we can go to the park and get out of here and just walk around for a little bit. We can walk around town a little bit. You can show me all the things in town that I've never seen before because I've never been in this town. Or I can just go and we can do that all another day. And he's like, well, how about you go and you, we can do it another day. We've already been hanging out for like 6 hours at this point. And he's like, your dad's probably pretty worried about you, and you're probably pretty hungry, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, I am pretty hungry, and I want to go eat somewhere, or I want to go home and eat, you know, because we didn't eat anything all day, you know? Or I didn't, but I bought you a dinner, apparently. So then he's like, okay, well, good night and stuff like that, and we said good night, and we were kissing for a little bit more, and what ends up happening is I leave his apartment and I'm like, oh, do you want to walk me out? And he's like, oh, I'm okay here. Wait, what? So he literally just lays on his couch and he like stays there. I start walking out and I'm like, you can walk me downstairs to my car and then you can come right back in, you know? But he's like, no, I'm okay here. I'm okay on my couch. You can just leave on your own. Okay, I guess I'll just leave on my own, right? I walk out to my car, I leave, and then I get a text message from him a couple minutes later, and he's like, so here's my Facebook. And I'm like, I'm not feeling great at the moment. Maybe not a moment to like, here's my Facebook. And he's like, so Thursday, we were talking about like a second date a little bit. And he's like, so I'm free on Thursday, so you can come here again to my apartment on Thursday, and maybe we can fool around a little bit on Thursday. I'm like, so how about on Thursday we don't fool around? How about we go somewhere and we do something instead? Oh, that's right. I have to drive again because you don't drive. And that's right. I have to come here instead of you coming to my house. And I ask him, I'm like, well, what if I told you one day, I want you to come to my house and sleep over? What if I'm having a party and I want to invite you? Can you make it to my house on your own without me coming to pick you up? And spending 40 minutes round trip to get you, 40 minutes round trip to drop you off again after that. Can you manage to do that one day? And he's like, well, I can ask a couple of my friends to just drive me, but then I'm like, what the hell? You know, that's the problem with you not driving, is you can't ever surprise me. You can't ever come to my house without me picking you up or a friend of yours driving 40 minutes round trip to drop you off, you know? It's so freaking difficult. So you're probably never going to come to my house. You're probably never going to even see my house. But if you ever did see my house, you would know that, hey, I actually have a king-size bed. And it's memory foam. It's pretty comfortable. You know, you probably would know that, hey, I have a whole studio. And you'd see that all, you know? And you'd know what I do for a living as a YouTuber, or in general. You'd know what I do as a living as a broadcast company owner, you know? I want you to see that part of my life, but I don't want to have to pick you up and take you. I'm like, so he's the one that brought up the whole driving thing during the day, and he's like, you know, most guys see it as a problem that I don't drive. Yeah, most guys would, you know? And I'm like, so what are you going to do about it, right? Like, how are you going to solve that problem? And he's like, well, to be fair, you can just teach me how to drive. I'm like, wait, what? No. Just because I have 3 vehicles for my company and myself, personally, you know, just because I have, like, those doesn't mean I'm going to risk any of those vehicles for you to test drive and learn driving on, you know? Like, my insurance won't cover it even if I wanted to, right? And I'm not going to teach you how to drive. I'm a boyfriend, like, potential boyfriend. Like, in the first month or 2 of a relationship, here's what I want to do in a relationship. I want to go on dates. I want to get to know you better. I want to get to know your family. I want to get to know all your friends. I want to, you know, spend the night and we just hang out with each other a little bit. I want to maybe fool around a little bit from time to time because we're both, you know, both guys and both adults, and we both consent to it, you know. I want to, you know, go chase squirrels in the park together because we're both puppies. Like, I want to, like, just hang out and be boyfriends. I don't want to be your driving instructor. That's not my role in this relationship, right? Why are you trying to say, well, you can just teach me how to drive? No, I can't. That's not my job, right? My job is to be your boyfriend, potentially. And by saying that I can just teach you how to drive, you're messing all that up. And so he's like, well, by the way, one of my friends is willing to give me a car to take my test on and willing to let me pay it off over the next couple months. And it's a used car. I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Like, so you mean to tell me, because normally when you buy a used car, you have to buy it in cash, like in full, that moment. You need all the money saved to just buy the car. And I'm like, you mean to tell me you have a friend that's willing to let you buy it over the next couple months and to pay it off instead of just buying it right up front? Why did you not go for that kind of deal? Like, you can give him or her like $100 a month, and you can still have $185 a month left over to spend on whatever the fuck you want to spend it on, including going on dates with me. Like, you have an opportunity here to get a car and at an amazing deal that no one else in the world has to pay it off over time, and you're not taking that deal, you know? And by the way, a license in Pennsylvania costs about $54 every 3 to 4 years to renew. Don't tell me that you don't have $54. Like, $54 to me every 4 years, which is like what, $12, $15 a month, or $12, $15 a year, right? Roughly about like $1 every month, right? Like, that to me is worth my freedom to just go on dates whenever I want. That $1 a month is worth it to me to go out with my friend whenever I want, or take a job that's out of the area that's for a lot more money than a grocery store, you know? And it's well worth it to me to spend the $54 every 4 years for a license, right? He doesn't see the value in that. And so I ask him, I'm like, why did you never get a license? He's just like, well, I never had the need to. I never wanted one. My mom in Florida, if I move down there, she's forcing me to definitely get a license right away. And everyone I date so far says that the driving is a problem. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it is a problem. And he's like, my last relationship was in Washington State, and I flew there a couple times to go visit him. I'm like, so you have extra money to go flying across the whole goddamn country, but you don't have enough money to spend on $54 for a license and a car that you can easily afford over the next couple months? Like, I don't understand what the philosophy is, right? I'm not paying $54 when I turn 16. No, but your parents do, right? Like, when you're 16, you don't pay the $54 right out front. Sometimes your parents pay for that right up front, and then later in life, that's when you start paying for it. Like, for me, for the first like 2 licenses renewals I had for the first like 8 years, my dad paid for it for me, and nowadays I pay for it on my own, you know? So I'm like, I don't understand, like, any of, like, why are you not responsible? Why don't you have a license? Why don't you clean up your house a little bit before someone comes over? Why don't you have dressers to have your clothes in? Why don't you have hangers to put your clothes in your closet even? Like, why are you keeping toys in your kitchen cabinets? Why don't you have literally almost any food in your whole house? Why don't you have a kitchen table or even a fold-up table to eat at for dinner? Like, why don't you have a TV stand that costs $30, you know, to put your TV on? Like, holy shit. The apartment stinks like crazy, you know? So, in one of our, like, makeout sessions on the couch and stuff like that, I accidentally kicked over, because you're not really paying attention in those moments. So I'm like, I accidentally kicked over his, yeah, he could totally just Uber if you wanted to, or take a taxi if you wanted to. But he chose not to. And he's like, I would need a friend of mine to drive me. Anyway, so I accidentally kick over his iced tea that was open, right? That, again, I bought for him, right? And it spills on the ground a little bit, right? Onto his carpet. And because he's in an apartment, if you're too young to know this, then it's fine. But when you get an apartment as an adult, like, you pay a security deposit. It's an amount of money that says, I'm not going to damage this apartment, and any damage I do, whenever I leave this apartment, you can take that money to repair anything I broke. And, you know, some landlords will take the full amount to do very, very minor repairs. So it's a highly risky situation if you're doing damage to your apartment, right? So I'm like, I spilled his iced tea on to his carpet. I don't want him to lose his security deposit. So immediately I'm like, hey, do you have paper towels? You know, I immediately run over to his kitchen sink, and I grab a couple paper towels, and I roll up a couple paper towels. I start dabbing the floor to get it cleaned up, and I hand him the rest of the roll of paper towels, thinking, okay, he can get a couple more paper towels ready, and he can start dabbing the towels too to get him up. And I'm like, and he just literally takes the paper towel rolls and puts them on the ground. And he's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. This apartment already smells. I'm like, what? Like, who lives like this? And do I want to live with someone eventually that lives like this? I don't. I just don't. You know? If I'm living with a guy, I want him to, like, have some responsibility in our security deposit together. Or I want to have some responsibility in a house someday with him. And like, he's willing to clean up after himself a little bit. Just a little bit, right? And I'm like, holy shit, this guy, right? So I come back home, and I'm like, well, today was interesting. And I tell my best friend in a little phone call, and I tell my dad when I get home. I'm like, he's like, well, how did it go? And I'm like, it went good, but it also went bad, and I don't know how to read the situation yet. I don't know if I want to go on a second date with him. And here's the problem. When you want to go on a second date, you should want to go on a second date. After the first date is over, you should go home, be going home from that situation and go, all I want to do is go on a second date with him, like, as soon as possible, because I really like him, and I really want to be with him as much as possible, you know? You should want to be back with him as soon as possible if that relationship is right. If the relationship is wrong, you're going to go home thinking, I don't know if I want to be back with him. I don't know if I want a second date. And that's the way I went home yesterday, going, I don't know if I want to go back out with him. I don't know if I want a second date yet. And he's like, by the way, he said to me, well, I'm free on Thursday, which is tomorrow, right? I'm free on Thursday, so we can hang out all day if you want. I'm like, well, here's the thing. I have to make an episode for my show for Friday. I'm working Friday at my other job, so I don't know if I have time. I don't know if I'm going to be available, you know? Sometimes I have to work too, because I apparently am paying for dates now. And he's like, oh, that's okay. That's okay if you have to make an episode. You can just make the episode in the morning, and then we'll hang out at night, and I'll buy you dinner. He's like, I will buy you dinner on Thursday night if you come back to my town and we go to a restaurant near here. I'm like, I don't want my whole life with you to be just in this small little town that there's barely anything to do in. And anything outside of this, I don't want to always drive to that. And I don't want to always be the person that drives to everything. And I'm like, I haven't made my mind up if I want a second date with him yet, let alone on Thursday when I might be busy. So I came out of his house that he didn't walk me out to my car at all. And I'm like, I don't know any of these things. So I went home and I thought about all of this. Last night I tried digesting everything outside of the situation of, like, fine, he's a good kisser, and, you know, he likes French kissing, which I enjoyed as well, you know? Fine, like, outside of that mindset of I want to touch him, I want him to touch me, because also what you have to understand is that I've been in 3 relationships before, one for 7 months, one for 3 months, and nowhere in any of those relationships, those 3 relationships I was in, and the third was for a week, right? So I was in a relationship for 3 months with someone who abused me and never even called me sexy, never called me cute. Second one was for a week, and we never did anything too much, you know, other than, like, kind of kiss, sort of. I don't even want to call it that. And the third was for 7 months, and he never wanted to touch me, never wanted to call me cute, never called me sexy, and at the very end, he said that I'm not sexy enough for him, you know, and the first boyfriend called me ugly instead of saying I love you, and no boy has ever said I love you to me. So, like, what you have to realize is it's been like a year and a half, 2 years since I've been in a relationship at all. Oh no, sorry, it's been a year and a half since I've been in a relationship at all. And I was like, No boy has ever called me cute. No boy has ever been touchy-feely with me. No boy has ever touched me down there without me like begging for it. So like maybe I do want him in that way. Maybe I do want him sexually just for one thing. And I'm like, that's not who I am though. Like after that I came home, I'm like, that is not who I am. That is not my morals. I'm okay with other people hooking up. I'm okay with a potential boyfriend of mine who had a hookup last week. I don't care. But when you get with me, I want exclusivity and I don't want to do anything sexually other than maybe kiss you or maybe make out with you on a first or second date. That's the most I would ever want to do, right? But with him, I'm letting my guard down so fast, and I don't know why, other than the fact that I'm lonely, other than the fact that it's been a year and a half, other than the fact that I'm still a virgin and I'm now 28 years old. You know, like literally, the best things this guy has going for him, once I got out of that mindset of all I want is sex, once I got out of that mindset and I got back home and I got back to my morals, I realized the best thing this guy has going for him is the fact that I'm lonely. And he's the only one I have who remotely wants to be with me. And I'm like, if I was with you, I'd sacrifice so much of who I am and my morals that I don't think it's ever going to be equal, you know? And so last night, I spent up all night long, about 5-6 hours, just thinking about this. And I'm like, at the very end of the day, I was like, the pros and the cons of this entire relationship. I mean, there's huge cons, there's huge red flags that just are piling up second by second with him. And then the pros for this are the fact that, yeah, he's a puppy, so he understands that part of me. Yeah, he's only a couple miles away from where I live, so I want someone close to where I live. But he doesn't drive, so he can't come here. I have to go to him all the time. And okay, so another pro is the fact that he's a good kisser, but he's not that sexy. He's not that good looking. So do I really want to kiss him more? No, you know. And another pro of it was that literally the biggest pro of all, or well, sorry, he also lived alone, so that's another plus, that we can hang out as much as we want and we can do as much as we want without any judgment, you know, eventually in the relationship. But the biggest thing you have going for him is the fact that he would be a boyfriend to me when I'm lonely. Like that no other guy is interested right now at the very moment, you know? Like when the best thing you have going for you is the fact that I'm lonely, that's not a reason to be with you specifically. That's a reason to you got to give me some reason that you are the right one. And I don't feel like he's the right one. And so that is, but by the way, the apartment complex that he lives in is called the Schoolhouse. I don't want to tell you what town or anything like that, but that's why he's called the Schoolhouse User. That's why this whole episode is called Schoolhouse User, is because he lives in a place called the Schoolhouse, and he used me the entire first date just to like try to get what he wants and to get a free meal. And you know, he values his own time and his own money over mine. Like such a user. But so I decided at the very end of last night, after like 6 hours spent up thinking about all this, I was like, well, no, there's not going to be a second date. There can't be. Like, I know if I go out with him again that, okay, yeah, tomorrow I could go out with him and he could buy me dinner, but what if he forgets his wallet conveniently again? What if he shows up to the date again in a tank top and sweatpants with no underwear on, like he did yesterday? Like, who shows up to a first date? Like, I'm not expecting you to come in a suit and tie or anything, because that's not what you should do, but he showed up in a tank top and sweatpants with no underwear. Like, who shows up to a first date to make their first impression to a guy looking like that, you know? I showed up with a t-shirt and shorts, and I at least had underwear on, you know, or boxers on, you know? I'm like, what the fuck, you know? And his shoes are untied because he doesn't want to tie them. He's like, well, when I tie my shoes, I trip more. I'm like, what the fuck logic is that, you know? So I'm like, you look like a slob. Your apartment looks like you're a slob. You sleep on the floor, basically. And what is good here? You know? Like, I was like, there's way too many cons and way too few of, uh, there's way too few of pros on this list for me to be even remotely interested in him, right? I'm like, oh, what? Other than I'm lonely, other than I don't have a boyfriend and I desperately want one, there's no other pro to him. Like, yeah, I'm lonely as shit right now. I don't know. So part of me just wanted to talk about it. Like, that's the thing. On this show, normally our streams or our episodes are all about, you know, are all about trying to help you and educate our audience on trying to help you guys. Everything on this channel is to help you guys. But there are moments that I don't know. I need your help and your support too. Because that's the thing. I'm 28 years old and I'm single, and I have never had a guy that's respected me enough to just respect me and just like me for me. And I never had a guy who is responsible enough to check all the boxes of what a relationship should be. I've never once had a guy lean in to kiss me and want to kiss me, you know, and this guy did want to kiss me, but there were so many other things wrong with him that I'm like, literally, I don't want to leave him because he leaned in to kiss me. He thinks I'm cute. I'm like, yeah, but also all these other things are wrong, so he's just using me. He's just kissing me to use me in other ways. Like, there's an end goal here. Like, if he's selfish enough to go to the grocery store and not have $5 to his name to, like, buy me a soda, right? Then is he just gonna, like, use me and want to have sex and stuff like that and then just leave me? Or is it just gonna be, well, we have sex and he gets to have fun and then he doesn't reciprocate the feeling to me, you know, which has happened to me in the past with a guy for the 7 months relationship. Like, I did things to him and he was like, well, I'm not going to do things in return. I'm like, fuck you then, you know? I don't ever want that feeling again, because that was the lowest moment of my whole life. And I don't want to feel that ever again. But I feel like with him, it's going to be that time and time again. And I don't know, there's a huge part of me that's like, well, I'm 28. I should have found someone by now. Everyone else in my life has found someone. Everyone else, like, all my friends are, like, getting married. Or, like, you know, like, Becca is single, but she's, like, one of the only friends I know that is still single, you know? And I don't get it. Because I try to be, like, a good person. I try to, like, help other people. I run a channel to help other people. And your comments are so wonderful. And that's And I'm like, I try to do so much, and I'm running my ass ragged to not just make content for this channel to help you guys, but I'm running my ass ragged other ways around everyone else in my whole life to try to help people. And I work my ass off doing it all. And I don't get paid very, very high doing my other jobs. So it's like, I don't understand how this world works. Of like, the bad guys that don't drive, that have all these red flags, they end up with people. And the good guys who are responsible, who are willing to be fair on dates and pay for half of things and drive half the time, and the guys like me get nothing. We don't get that love in return. We show the world love, and we get shit back from any guy, you know? Like, I'm lucky that I have you, and I'm lucky that I have all your support. I don't know. I'm like last night. I'm there crying in bed, and I'm like, I'm so fucking tired of going to bed alone. I'm so tired of crying myself to sleep because guys are assholes to me. I'm tired of going on dates and finding out something like this. I want one fucking time for it to work. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know why I made this stream other than to complain and talk with you guys about it. Because I know on Monday you're all like, oh, I wish you luck and stuff like that. But, I mean, there were red flags before I even went out with him. And I was hesitant to go out with him because of those red flags. Because, I mean, like, I've heard it all before. Because he kept on telling me, oh, well, don't worry. I'm going to get a license within a month or two. I'm going to get a license. I'm going to get a car within a month or two. Like, I've heard that line so many times before from other guys. Like, at this point, it's fascinating to know the data. I would love to, like, we've agreed to do a survey on it on our other platform of, like, gay guys who don't drive or don't have a license, don't have enough responsibility to drive or have a license at 30 years old, you know? Like, I'm tired of finding that same thing over and over and over again. Mostly because my family has heard it all before. Like, I can't vent to my family anymore about this. I can't say, oh, there's another guy who doesn't drive. There's another guy who's a complete asshole. I can't do it anymore. My family has heard that story so many fucking times, and I'm tired of telling it to them. I don't know. Anyway. I know that the other guys don't matter, but, like, just one fucking time it'd be nice to have a guy who does. And some of my other friends are telling me things, you know? Some of the other guys are telling me, well, you know, you'll find that right person. And I'm like, yeah, but when? Or they tell me, you shouldn't need someone by your side to be happy. You should just be happy on your own and then bring them into that happiness. I understand the mentality behind that, but I'm just not one of those people. Like, I love what I do for a living. I love my career. I love this channel. I want to grow this channel into something that I can do full time. And I want I love my family, I love my friends, but no matter what I do, there's always at least half of my heart missing because I don't have someone to share any of that success with, any of those hardships with. It's like when I come home from hanging out with friends, I'm like, this has been a wonderful day with my friends, or this has been a wonderful day with my family. And then I come home and I'm in bed by myself, in a king size bed, all by myself. And all I have is like pillows and, and I got a new puppy today. So that's exciting. But, like, so now I have 2 cats and 2 puppies to cuddle with, you know? But I'm tired of not having a guy to hold me at night and be the bigger spoon. And I'm tired of having to, like, when there's a good day at work, I want to come home and have a guy to celebrate with. When there's a bad day at work, I want to come home and have him be supportive and just hold me for a little bit. I want to share in his successes, and if he has a great day, then, you know, make him dinner and celebrate and stuff. And if he has a bad day, I want to be there for him and, you know, be waiting at the door and just be like, well, you don't have control over your work, but control me tonight, you know? Like, take whatever you want and do whatever you want to me, you know? Like, I want to be in that relationship where I can share things with. And when things get too much, just go away for a trip with and not have to worry about, oh, you can't go to the bathroom any moment outside of your apartment. Like, what the fuck, you know? I want to go on a trip one day and be like, no, I'm spending the night in a hotel with just my boyfriend, you know? I don't, that can afford to have, afford to pay for half the trip with me, you know? And you're right, I don't ask for much. Like, I know on this channel I've shared with you guys more about myself than I probably should. Because years ago I was like, well, no, I'm into the pup tribe and stuff like that, but I'll probably never share that part of me with anyone, you know, outside of potential boyfriends. Like, my best friend in the whole world knows, but, you know, she knows everything about me. She knows what I prefer in relationships, and that's fine with me because we both talk about boys like that, you know? And I just, uh, I never thought I would share that part of my life with an audience, let alone a big audience like this. And, like, you guys have been so supportive of me being in the pup tribe and into pup play a little bit, you know, and into that headspace. Because that's the thing. I mean, like, when I go to bed every night, I think to myself, like, that I'm just being held by a guy, and a guy has his arm around me, and, like, he's just holding me. Like, that's what I think about and makes me fall asleep immediately, you know? But I never thought I would, like, share those parts of my life with an audience, because I was like, well, not everyone likes the pup tribe, and not everyone thinks it's okay. But, like, you guys made me feel comfortable telling that to you. And here's the thing with it, like, I wish, but, well, I mean, I being a puppy, it makes you feel like extremely high when you have someone in your life, because you get all excited and you're like, well, finally I found that someone that's gonna you know, consider me their own, and we can own each other in that way, and we can, you know, love each other. And when you're a puppy, you go to that extreme of like, no, I'm so happy to finally be found, you know. But when you're alone, you also feel like a lost dog, and that's what the lost dog song is all about. It's like I feel like I'm out in the pouring rain, just wandering the streets right now, and I don't feel like I have a home, even though I have this home. I have a beautiful fucking house. Like, it's not a mansion, but it's a house. It's a home, you know? I feel like I have a bedroom. I take care of my bedroom. Like, I have my closet full of clothes. Like, and it's all organized by colors, and that way I can pick a color for the. By the way, it's all organized in like the rainbow colors. Like my entire closet is like rainbow as you go along. But I have all my clothes organized. I have drawers full of stuff that I'm like, oh, this is my drawer full of socks or underwear or like whatever, right? Like it's all organized. Like my pants are in a different drawer. I'm like, how can you go through life going like, no, it's all my clothes are in random bins, you know, all over my house. Like, how can you go through life going like, no, it's in a laundry basket somewhere in the house, you know, like, no. Like, I'm extremely lucky that my kitchen cabinets are filled with, you know, Tupperware and dishes and pots and pans and not adult toys, you know? Like, I have drawers in my bedroom for that. Like, that's why you have drawers in your bedroom to, like, hide things in. Like, you don't need them in your kitchen cabinets, you know? Like, I'm lucky that I have an office space that I keep organized at all times. Like, if this is unorganized, like, I know I have, like, a table back there with a bunch of paperwork on it that's, like, all stuff from the past month that came in the mail or something. But I also own a business, you know? So, like, that's gonna happen. If I have one table in the whole house that's a little bit messy, that's fine with me. I own a business. That's what being an entrepreneur means when you have bills coming in and you have to organize things and you have to take care of things at a certain time. Like, if you ever see this board above me, like this is all a board with like a whiteboard of like what I have to do for the day. You know, I keep as organized as I possibly can. I can't understand living like that where I'm not organized. And with him, I felt like, well, maybe it's never going to be organized. And I also have soap. That's right. And oh, by the way, my shower doesn't have just black filth covering the whole bottom of the shower floor. Like that is a thing that was in his shower, and I'm like, my shower's clean. I know how to clean stuff. My toilet seat doesn't fall off of the toilet the moment you like lift up the cover. Like, okay. Also, like his ceiling light in his living room doesn't work. His lamps work, but his ceiling light doesn't work because the bulb burned out in it. And I'm like, but you work in a fucking grocery store 5-6 days a week. Buy a $2 bulb, okay? Like, you have the money to buy a $2 light bulb to replace that, okay? I'm sorry, you know? Like, and I even told him that part. I'm like, yo, like, you work in a grocery store. Why didn't you just buy a $2 light bulb? Oh, well, you know, I just never thought about it. Like, how do you not think about the ceiling light not working? Like, what the hell, you know? And so, like, he's texting me today, and he's like, oh, I can't wait to hang out tomorrow. I'm like, I already told you that I work tomorrow, and I'm busy. I can't, you know? And I'm just going to, like, ghost him from there. But, like, the only reason I was holding on to, like, maybe hanging out with him again tomorrow is the fact that, here's the thing. Like, if I hung out with him tomorrow, fine, maybe he can pay for dinner. Or maybe he would, like, show up without his wallet again, you know? And he's like, promise me, well, if we hang out tomorrow, then you can wear your puppy stuff and I'll wear my puppy stuff and we can have some fun. back in my apartment. Like, I'm like, so in other words, if I go there tomorrow, you're promising me that we can do some fun stuff. But I don't know if I want to do fun stuff with you. Like, I don't know if you're worth it, you know? Or would I just feel good in the moment and then come back home and feel absolutely horrible? Because that's not who I am. Like, I don't judge other people for what they fucking do. I really can care less if people have hookups. I really can care less if people want to have sex or whatever. Like, go out, go have fun. You know, be safe, wear condoms, you know, and whatever. But I just, I don't understand how, like, and I would feel after that of, like, if I came back from that date and I felt, because here's the problem. Like, for me, my morals say that I shouldn't do that on a first or second date. Like, I'm like the third date kind of guy where I'm like, yeah, third date we can, like, hands, you know, but only if it's going well, you know, and it's in the moment, you know. But I'm like, yo, you obviously don't understand. This is not who I am, and I don't want to do that stuff. Because honestly, today I just feel dirty because I made out with him, and I'm like, I shouldn't feel dirty after making out with someone. I should feel like, God damn, I want more of that. You know, like, that's the feeling you should have after making out with someone. And so I'm like, yeah, tomorrow I can go, and I could go uh, get him to jerk me or whatever, and I do the same to him. Like, that could be a thing, and it could be nice, hot, and whatever. But how am I gonna feel afterwards? You know, like, if I'm feeling this shitty about just kissing him, then how am I gonna feel on Friday after that? You know, I don't know. I wish it was like that guy who would respect me enough and care for me enough that I could feel good about kissing him. It, like, after my third boyfriend, it took me about 4 or 5 months to, like, get over the fact that he didn't want me like that, and get over the fact that, of, like, no, it doesn't matter what any of my boyfriends in the past said about me being ugly or I wasn't sexy enough for them. Like, this is who I am. And I don't know. I just want one guy out there to be like, no, you are sexy. No, you are cute, you know? And you are worth having a relationship with. And I know Leela. I'm not dating him again. I don't know. Part of me, like, last night, I wanted to go live and ask you guys, well, what's your opinion on whether or not I should date him? But I'm like, I already know the answer. I already know what I feel, you know, and I don't want to go live and just bawl my eyes out the whole time. But at the same time, like, you should think this way, and X, don't think of him. I know. I mean, the good news is we learn something from all of our past relationships. And so, for instance, from my first relationship, I learned that I don't like getting punched across the face. I don't like getting pushed to the ground outside of their house just because I wanted to kiss him, you know? I've learned that I don't like getting abused, apparently, you know? Like, there's a difference between smacking my ass because you want my ass and punching me across the face, you know? So I've learned the difference between that. I learned the warning signs of abuse in that first relationship. Luckily, that didn't come up yesterday at all, you know? And, like, my second relationship, I learned that I don't want to date someone that's, you know, he was 19. And so I'm like, I don't want to date someone that's that young because, you know, we can't go to half the places I want to go because you're not 21 yet in America, you know? And yeah, my first boyfriend, did punch, and I should have, but yeah, we've severed ties, and his mom's still my friend. My mom's like, his mom is saying like how much better I am than him, so I appreciate that. But yeah, anytime I wanted to kiss my first boyfriend, he would punch me. Every time I would want to like grope him or whatever, like you do honestly in a relationship when you're saying goodnight with each other in an adult relationship, when you're saying goodnight to each other and you're like, hey, we're about to spend a week apart from each other. Yeah, you maybe grope each other a little bit, and from the outside of the pants, just be like, here's a little feel of what like exactly. Like that's what you do in a relationship sometimes. It's just like, here's what happened, and right after that is like, I shouldn't be thrown to the ground outside of your house, you know? But I learned the warning signs of an abusive relationship from that. And then my third boyfriend, I learned that I don't want to go and move in with a guy after 3 months. And, I don't want to be in a relationship where he never calls me cute. He never calls me sexy. I don't want to be in a relationship where he never says I love you back to me. And I've never heard those words. And it fucking sucks. But I've learned what I don't want in a relationship. And I learned a lot from those relationships. And this one is no different. I learned that I'm tired of the guys who don't drive. And if you did drive, or if you don't drive, then it's going to be a big enough red flag next time that I just don't fucking care anymore. I'm not going to put up with a person who doesn't drive. I'm not going to like take their excuses of this is, what. I'm not going to put up with all these excuses and be like, oh, no, it's fine, It's fine if you don't drive. No, it's not fine if you don't drive. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what any of this stream is for. I don't know what the purpose was. I don't even know if I care. Because this show, while it's always about helping you guys, it's like sometimes I just need support and help too. And I very much appreciate all your comments so far. It's like, if you missed a lot, then you probably want to start from the very beginning, because I told the whole story already. I don't know. Sometimes I just want to talk to you guys, because you guys make me feel better. And you guys make me feel like, well, maybe I am worthy. Because certainly the guys I've dated never made me feel that way. And to decompress and to maybe in a way sharing this with you is cathartic for me. Do you have a job? Are you single? Are you gay? Do you have a car? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he did have a job. He was single that I knew of. He was gay. But yeah. I don't know. So that's the thing, like, on this show, sometimes we get the comments of like, oh, we've saved your life, but at the same time, like, you have to understand this is just as much of like, your comments help me, and it's difficult to like go through this and be like, here's yet another guy who doesn't give a shit. And also, like, the day after my birthday, right? The day after my birthday, I was already in contact with this guy that was horrible from this date, right? But there was another guy who I met at my nephew's birthday party. He was like a family member of someone else that was there. One of the other kids that was there. He was like a family member, and he's just like, he was gay as well. He's so cute. And he was like a year older than I was. And I'm like, oh, like that's amazing. And he's single and he's from like the area. And I'm like, how come I never met you on Grinder? Because he's not on Grinder. And I ended up talking to him, and he's just like, I'm like, I'm taking photos of my nephew's birthday party, and he's like, well, I tell him, well, you make a good model, and you're pretty cute, and so we're like talking for a little bit, and I end up like really flirting heavy with him. Later, July 4th night, which was a Saturday here in America, which is a whole big deal in America here. Like I end up like messaging him on Facebook, and we talk for a little bit. And I'm like, so what do you do for a living? And he's like, oh, insurance and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And we start talking to each other. I'm like, I know you drive because you drove here to the party, And then he's like, so anyway, I'm going to head to bed, and hopefully I'll see you next year for your nephew's 5th birthday party. And I'm like, well, hopefully before then, right? Because, hopefully we go out for a date next week or something, And he's like, oh, or maybe next year for, your nephew's 5th birthday. I'm like, oh, in other words, you're not interested in dating me, You just wanted to be nice to me and let me down easy. I don't know. I don't need a lawyer. I need a boyfriend. I need someone to, like, pick all the pieces up of the crap I've been through. I need someone to go, like, no, this is... You're okay now, and you're safe now. I need someone to go, well, it doesn't matter what those shitty boys have done to you. I need you to know that you're okay. That's what I need in my life. And so far, I haven't had that with boys. You guys have been amazing, which is why I like sharing with you. That's why I feel safe with you guys. I don't know. But maybe I need both. You're right. Anyway. You need a boyfriend who is a lawyer. That'd be great. That'd be great. That would be actually wonderful. Why won't someone date Matt? I like that. Anyway, I know Grindr is a thing for hookups, but there's guys on there who do want to date too. And it's not the only app I'm on anyway. Because he's also like, oh, by the way, can we delete Grindr off of our phones tonight? And I'm like, fuck no. Like, you think this is going well enough for that? No. Hell no. So I have like Grindr, Recon, Adam for Adam, Scruff, Kingsters, Howler, which is more for furries, because I maybe potentially want to date a furry. I wouldn't mind it, But like all these apps, and like also looking in real life for a boy too, and it's like Tinder's for straight people. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to waste more of your time, but I do appreciate all your wonderful comments, and know that they mean the world to me. And yeah, Black Rose, at least I know what I want, and I won't settle for it. Anything less. Because that's the thing. I mean, like, my parents settled for each other, and I don't ever want that to happen to me. Because I want someday, even if it's 10 years from now or whatever, I want my children that I adopt to know that they're loved and that their parents love each other. Like, that's the most important thing to me. I don't want for my kids to think or know that they're the only thing that keeps us together, I want there to be genuine love there. So, anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. And I do appreciate all your wonderful comments because you're amazing, guys. I hope you know that. Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. I appreciate all your support because like you're more supportive than any guy has ever been to me. So you mean more than me than that. And I love you guys. I hope you know that. I love you very, very much. No, you're cuter. No, you're cute. No. uh, anyway. I do hope that you have a good night. I do appreciate you staying with us. And anyway, that is because I know some of you would be wondering in the next stream, like, oh, well, how did your date go with that guy from last week? And I'd be like, well, it didn't go great, I was going to do an episode on Friday of, like, how to deal with homophobic parents or whatever. And then I was going to, honestly, this morning, I was thinking, well, I can just make an episode of X-Files, and I can make it down the studio, and I can edit it all together, and it can air on Friday. But I'm like, no, I need to tell you that story today, and I need you to hear that today, and I need that support today. I don't need that support. Like, I can't wait until Friday for that support, I need my support system today. And because I felt really, really down last night. And I still feel down a little bit. Because it's like, here's another boy, another thing that didn't work out, But anyway, I appreciate you hearing me out. And this is how the date went. I probably will not have an episode on Friday because either this was going to be my episode Friday or it was going to be how to deal with homophobic parents. And I don't think I'm going to have the time to make it because I need time for myself to get over this shit from yesterday. And I need an ice cream, you're right. Plus I work Friday, so I had to get ready for that at my other job. And I need to take some time for myself this weekend. Like, I know the view counts are down this week because I haven't been making much. I know, it's been crazy here, but next week we'll be back in full swing. And I hope you understand that I need to take that time. And I hope you're okay with that, not having a main episode on Friday. It's just going to be streams this week. I might stream Saturday if I feel right doing it, but there probably won't be a main episode this week, and I'm sorry for that. I'm really sorry I know you guys look forward to the main episodes, and I'm sorry that there won't be that. This is the first week that I've taken off from main episodes in months, so it's new for me, but I do need a hug. Thank you. So anyway, I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you to Lewis Smith for the super chats. Thank you to my friends and my family for being here for me once again, because they're just amazing. They've heard this story a million times before of like another guy wasn't good enough, and they've been here for me. And they've heard this story 100 times. And I feel tired saying it to them, but they still aren't really annoyed at me telling them. So, anyway, thanks for joining. I love you all. Thank you for being an amazing support system. And thank you for being just incredible fans. Have a good night, everyone. Absolutely, absolutely love you. Watch Powered by Rainbows Season 3, only on MHP TV.